Hello, I'm Carly McAvoy. I'm talking about logic, and this may be a different chapter depending on what book you're using, but logic is usually a chapter in a Math 107 class, which is Math and Society or Liberal Arts Math. I'm going to go through these notes, and you can follow along completing them as we go to help you with your homework. The objectives are listed here. You're free to read those to see what we're going to be talking about first. So first of all, we want to just talk about what is a statement. A statement is a sentence that has a truth value. It's either true or false, but cannot be both simultaneously. It is an opinion or it's not an opinion. It's not a command and it's not a question. So when you look at the statement here, she got 2,130 on her SAT. That's a statement. She's the smartest girl in the class. That's an opinion. There are 15 cars in the parking lot. Statement. It could be true or false. It could be 100. We don't know. It doesn't matter if it's true or false. It's just that it is a statement that can be evaluated as true or false. Get out. That's a command. Seattle is the capital of Washington State. Statement. Are you hungry? That's a question, not a statement. So we use symbolic logic. We use symbols to represent statements in symbolic logic. And so, for instance, if we have a statement like Hawaii is the 50th state in the Union, we might give that the letter P. Typically, we use P, Q, R, and S, but we can use any letters we want. Q would be the statement Dale Earnhardt is a famous quarterback. So Q represents that statement. And every statement has a truth value. So Hawaii was the 50th state in the Union. That's true, but Dale Earnhardt is a famous quarterback is false. All right, so we can always give a truth value to a statement. And then we can negate statements. Negating a statement is using this tilde symbol, putting that in front of that. Negating statements is like putting a negative sign in front of a number. Putting a negation sign in front of a true statement makes it false. And putting a negation symbol in front of a false statement makes it true. So it gives the opposite value with the negation symbol. For our statements above, P was initially true. Hawaii was the 50th state in the Union. So the negation of P, or we can sometimes say not P, is false. It changes it from true to false. But Q was false to start with, so the negation of Q is true. It changes the truth value. And then we could say if P is Hawaii was the 50th state in the Union, what would not P look like, or the negation of P? And that would be Hawaii was not the 50th state in the Union. So I could just make it as not. And then Dale Earnhardt is a famous quarterback. The negation is Dale Earnhardt is not a famous quarterback. So negating the statement with symbols also means we've negated the statement in English, and we can rewrite that. Sometimes we don't have just a single statement, we have a compound statement. So in this case, looking at the objectives for compound statements and connectives, we want to be able to express compound statements in symbolic form, express symbolic statements with parentheses in English, and use the dominance of connectives, and that we'll talk about. But connectives in general are and, or, if then, or if and only if. So simple statements convey one idea with no connecting words. Compound statements combine two or more simple statements using connectives. And those connectives are these words. Could be and or, if and then, if and only if. So we use connectives to put two statements together. The first connective we can look at is the and statement. An and statement is called a conjunction, and it can be thought of as a way to join two statements together. If P and Q are two simple statements, then the compound statement P and Q is symbolized by P and this like caret symbol Q. That means and, or that means conjunction of. The compound statement formed by connecting statements with the word and is called a conjunction, and we use that symbol. So if we were talking about our two statements from before, where we said Hawaii was the 50th state in the Union and Dale Earnhardt is a famous quarterback, we could, if we put those together and use that word and, then that would be P and Q in symbols, because we connected Hawaii and Dale Earnhardt there. So remember our statement from above where we say Hawaii was the 50th state. Negation of that was Hawaii was not the 50th state. Dale Earnhardt is a famous quarterback. The negation, Dale Earnhardt is not a famous quarterback. And from that, we want to use our knowledge of those symbols and rewrite these into English statements. So we know that we're going to connect the two statements with and, because we've got the connected, the conjunction in there for all of those. And so in this case, we would say Hawaii was the 50th state in the Union. I'm going to do HW. In the Union. And there's our connection right there. And Dale Earnhardt is not, because this is a negation of, is not a famous quarterback. All right, what would the next one say? Well, the next one we're saying the negation of P and the negation of Q. So it would look like the first one, except we would say Hawaii was not ... the 50th state in the Union, and Dale Earnhardt is not a famous quarterback. I'm abbreviating because we don't want to spend time watching me write that out. And then the last one is Q and not P. So they don't have to go in a certain order. I can put Q first. And then I'm saying, because it's not the negation of Q, but just plain old Q, Dale Earnhardt is a famous quarterback. And again, we aren't concerned with whether these are true or not at this point. We're just saying, how would you write them if they were symboled like that? Dale Earnhardt is a famous quarterback and not P, or the negation of P. So Hawaii is not the 50th state in the Union. So we can, using that conjunction, can make different statements with that. Okay. Also, if your original statement includes the word not, then it wouldn't appear in the negation. So how would you write the negation of P if P was she is not his daughter? Then the negation of that is she is his daughter. But when you do your homework, if you're writing the original statement, if they just say, write this statement, you'll see as we translate later, we always want to start off, typically, when we're writing them, with a positive, a non-negative statement, not with the negative to start with. But I do want to talk about this a little bit, too. Sometimes if you want to negate something, it's a little confusing. Some statements have quantifiers, such as some, all, no, or none. The negations of these statements can be a little tricky, and here's a diagram that helps you. If we say some P are Q, then we negate that with none of them are. So we're saying some are, that also implies that some aren't. So we can't say some children are curious and then say, oh, I'm going to negate that by saying some children are not curious. Because by saying some are, that obviously is saying some aren't, right? So we can't negate that unless we say no. No children are curious. If they say no motorcycles are safe, we don't need to say all of them are. People tend to want to negate none with all, but we don't have to negate that. If they say no motorcycles are safe, we can negate that just by saying some are. So we can say some motorcycles are safe. And we've negated their claim. If it says all people want to have friends, all people want friends, we can negate that with some people do not want friends. Because if they're saying all we have to do is say, yeah, no, not all of them. Some don't. So all can be negated with some. Some people do not want friends, want to have friends. And then some cashiers are not friendly. If they start off with some things are not that, we negate that by saying all things are that. So the sum negates this. So some cashiers are not friendly. All cashiers are friendly. So remember this. If you have something that somebody makes an absolute like all or none, you're going to negate that with the sum. If you have somebody make a wishy-washy statement like some, then you're going to negate it with an absolute all or no. All right, that's the end of part 1. We'll talk to you next time.